Good morning and welcome back to the channel. It is a very frigid morning this morning, but I'm outside because it's time to bid farewell to my 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EUV. Don't know where to start with this because this is kind of in the middle of a story, if you know what I mean. But I'll try to do some more context here as I go. So I bought this Bolt brand new. It had, I think, 3 miles on it when I got it delivered here. And it served us well. The problem is that in the area where I live, the charging infrastructure and electric vehicles as a whole are just not really supported. So with that said, it was one of those things where we had to decide that it was basically time to go. And I've been tossing this thing back and forth for about 6 months now. My ex-wife was using this vehicle for most of its use because I drive a diesel Jetta that gets 800 miles to the tank, and I do a lot of long distance trips. This is not good for long distance trips. This will do, 100 miles away and then 100 miles back, about 200 miles or so in a state of charge. And around here, it's okay, but it's 40 minutes to the nearest Costco, just to give you a little bit of perspective. So it's a little tough to go anywhere past that. So I decided that it's time to go. Also, to have a car payment for a car that I'm not using, not very smart. So this car is being purchased actually by Carvana. And the reason I chose Carvana was simply because of the fact that they gave me the best offer for the price of the car. And they made it very easy in terms of paying off the negative equity, which you have to do before they will take the car. So took care of that, over the last week or so. And, it's a Sunday morning and they're coming to get it. So it's a bittersweet morning, but it is time to let the vehicle go. And I'll fill you in on a little bit more of the details a little bit later. I'm just going to do a walk around here just to log any damage or, anything that needs to be, just verified that the car has or doesn't have. First and foremost, the car does have 40,726 miles on it. So it's charged up to 85%, which is a decent state of charge. I'm gonna make sure there's nothing in the back seat or on the floor. Nope, I cleaned it out the other day, but it's always good to double check. One thing with this car is, I already took off the license plate. That's one of the requirements. There is a charger that it comes with. There it is. So we know it's there. Let's see. Yeah, there's the actual charger itself. So make sure that that's there. They told me not to clean it, so I didn't. They said they have detailers that clean these vehicles. So it's actually frozen over a little bit. It's really cold out here. But yeah, it looks good. Looks good from the passenger seat too. No damage noted. Everything works. I mean, the car's pretty new, and my ex took care of it pretty well. So let's go around the front. I think there might be some bug splatter up here. Yeah, there's a little bit, but no damage. Can be cleaned up. Let me back up a little bit. I am living in South Carolina at the moment, and I live alone in this house. My ex-wife and my son moved out of state, and now I'm in the middle of selling this house and moving out to be closer to them, in the end being there for my son. But there's a lot of things that I can't take, and that car was just one of them. Also, it had a hefty monthly payment on it because I was financing it, and new cars are expensive. That car is no exception. It was a good daily driver to work. My ex-wife used it for, I don't know, about a year and a half. She put quite a bit of miles on it, and she loved it. And ultimately, in the end, when we were doing the agreements for separation and whatnot, I offered the vehicle to her, and it didn't make sense for her to take it where she was going. Um, you know, it's a short range vehicle. I call it short range because nowadays electric vehicles can go, several hundred miles. This thing on a full charge might do, I don't know, 160, 180 miles. So I call it a short range vehicle. I used to road trip that car from South Carolina to Pennsylvania, and it turned a 10-hour trip into a 12 to 16-hour trip, depending on the time of year. In the wintertime, it was much, much longer because of how fast the battery died with all the heat and, climate control that you use. And, it's a trade-off. You're either freezing in the car but making it further, or you're comfortable and you're charging more often. So, and that car also was one of the slowest charging cars ever manufactured. It only charged at 55 kilowatts maximum. And now you have vehicles that are charging at, 300, 325, maybe even 350. So it's a significant difference. But those cars also cost twice or three times the amount that the Bolt costs. So, you have to weigh your pros and cons. And, the car was purchased with the idea that it would replace the old one that I had that was bought back by Chevrolet due to the battery fire recall that happened at the beginning of COVID. And, one thing led to another. I ended up getting another one. The financing essentially restarted, which was understandable. They took the old car back, and, that's how that, happened. But I got to a point with it where I literally felt myself aging in the car. Every time I sat at a charging spot, I was always glared at because I was taking up a higher speed charger, but charging at 55 kilowatts. And the problem with that is you have these guys with expensive vehicles that are on a mission to get from point A to point B, as am I. But in their minds, they could charge their car up in 15, 20 minutes and get to wherever they need to go. For me, it was 90 minutes sometimes. If it was colder, it was probably more like 2 hours. So it's a real, you toss this thing around when you're driving it. And, the idea to buy an electric vehicle came in California. California is one of the best EV states in the nation. There's just so much support for it. There's so much infrastructure for it. You can probably go, from corner to corner and find some kind of charger, whether it's a Tesla charger or Electrify America or EVgo or some of the Shell recharge chargers. They're everywhere along the freeway corridors, towards Vegas, towards San Francisco, down to San Diego. I mean, they were everywhere. It's very easy to get around, and there's a plethora of chargers everywhere. They're almost like Starbucks nowadays, where every corner has one. And that's great and all. But here in South Carolina, the nearest level 3 charger, the nearest DC fast charger, is 77 miles away. I'm going to repeat that. It's 77 miles away. And it's in Greenville, and there aren't that many stalls. There's 2 charging stalls at that fast charging station. It works, but gee, why would I drive 77 miles there? Assuming that my battery's already drained a little bit, only to drain it potentially 2/3 of the way down coming back. It never made sense. It's near a freeway, and that's why it's there. You know, people traveling on the 85 from Atlanta up to Charlotte, they can stop there, charge, and keep going. But it's not practical for me to get to. I have a level 2 charger in the garage, so I was able to get around that whole bit. But for road tripping, it turned into a nightmare. And I parked it in the driveway and it sat there for a while. And I remember waking up one morning and I asked my ex-wife then that would she be willing to drive this car, or does she want to, drive it, because I don't want it to just get destroyed from the elements and whatnot. And she said sure. She grabbed the key and she took it for a drive and she fell in love with it. And it was a little heartbreaking that we had to park it again after our separation around the holidays. But the car was parked for literally, I don't know, a week without being moved now. And this whole week of doing the Carvana process, they kind of tell you, try not to put any mileage on it, because that will in turn affect the offer amount that they give you. So, moving on, I had purchased a 2015 Volkswagen Jetta TDI diesel vehicle outright. I bought it for cash last year in August, and that car has been the salvation of my road tripping, my basically getting anywhere in this state vehicle, because it gets 800 miles to the tank. And I've made it from South Carolina to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and then a third of the way back on one tank of diesel, which is, I couldn't do that with a gasoline-powered vehicle, if I tried. So it's amazing. Yeah, the car's, 11 years old or whatnot now, but it's still, no rust, no damage. It drives like a champ, and I've put 39,000 miles on it since I got it in August. And here we are, January of 2026. So this was August of 2024 that I got it. I got it with the simple intent to replace the electric vehicle out of my needs to drive to Pennsylvania, because I needed to get there, and those days and nights that I drove, 12 to 16 hours, my son Eddie went with me a few times, and the boredom that he felt for that long a time was astronomical, to say the least. And I decided to make his life better, make my life better, that we would get a vehicle that would just drive straight through, and that's what we did. And we turned a 12 to 16 hour trip into an 8 to 10 hour trip, depending on, the human element, needing to stop, needing to walk, needing to eat, get some movement in to stretch the legs out. And the rest is sort of history. My ex-wife continued to drive the car. She went to work in it. She went to school in it. She drove it pretty much everywhere. And her RAV4, which is the vehicle that she had, that she still has, the RAV4 was basically just a utility vehicle that we used for, dropping things off, taking large things, or doing large grocery hauls. And she just switched between the two cars. I soloed my Jetta for, the last year and a half. I basically just, went to that, and she had both cars, which worked out. It worked out really well in the end. Also, she saved an astronomical amount of fuel, mileage, and, beatings on the car, just general beatings. So back to this process. Once I got this payoff quote, which, turned into that three-way call, and they got all the information, I scheduled a pickup. Now, I feel the need to point out that that three-way call happened yesterday. This morning, they picked up the car. So yesterday was Saturday, today is Sunday, and the woman just left with it. So it's kind of bittersweet thinking about it. I miss it, but you know, it's an expense that I'm going to save from here on out, and I'll be able to apply those funds to other things, and it'll be great and gravy for me because, as you guys know, insurance costs are going up this year. So fun times ahead. So once once the car gets loaded up on the back of the trailer, they will tell you whether or not you have whether or not they have a check for you. So in my case, I overpaid a little bit. I'm getting $1.27 back for my overpayment, and I think this is an interest adjustment because they tell you to, pay an X amount to pay down your negative equity. So it's essentially the balance of the car minus the offer equals your share of negative equity. Take that negative equity and pay it off. In my case, it was about $10,000. And whatever the difference is, if you overpaid like I did, you get a check back. The good thing about it is that, if you get it to zero or you own the car outright, there's no financial transaction, and it works out really well. And the process is much quicker if you don't have a monthly payment, if you're not financing. If you have a title to the car, you can get this process done in 2 or 3 days. So if you're really in a pinch, you can drive into any location too and have them do it. But because I'm alone here, it would have made it difficult for me to drive the car there and then wonder how I'm going to get back home, because they're in North Carolina, I'm in South Carolina. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, kind of just a talking vlog of this event. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.